Awesome. 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 Okay. Well, futures are open. Green so far. Um, but this to me, if I was trading right now, I'd probably take a short right here
Hmm.
because we're heading back to that
Yeah.
area right here,
Yeah, I see that too.
short area, yeah. And then we're given this rejection candle on NQ right now. You guys can see my screen, right? Nice. Okay.
I
Yeah.
can.
So basically, I want to go over how I chart and Miriam can go over kind of how she charts. I know it's pretty much the same thing. I kind of like to use like zones rather than specific levels. Um, and then I'll kind of show you guys what tools I use. This is if you can see like RSI and all this stuff, this is because this is my daily indicators. When I look at the daily chart, I have like the 20, the 50, and the 200. This one. But and I'll have like RSI and MACD. I don't use these at all for day trading. This is just for me to see if we're like overbought, oversold, like on the bigger time frames. And then like on the smaller time frames, I know most people use like the 9 and 21. Mine's a little different. I use the 13 and 48 just because the 9 and 21 kind of fakes me out a lot. It's happened to me. I don't know if it's happened to anyone else. I get faked out a lot on like getting wicked under the 90 MA and closing out a trade and then for it to come back up. The
Hmm.
13 kind of has been holding a little bit better to me so I can hold trades a little longer. Like on this day, the 13 was basically, perfect on Thursday, except for the spike to the 48. I always have VWAP in there as well, just to kind of see what direction the day is as far as like buying pressure and selling pressure. But yeah, we can just hop in here and start with I guess QQQ because that's my favorite thing to chart. So QQQ, I've been watching this retracement. When we got this dump and got this immediate pushback up on the same day, I immediately drew my fibs from the top of the all-time high basically to this bottom. And I told everybody to keep an eye on these levels, the 50% retracement, the 61, and then this area in general. And so far, obviously, we got a little pullback here at the 50%. We then pushed right back through all the way to 78%, which was this gigantic rejection. We kind of, touched around here in this area for like 2 days, chopped around, and then we got that big engulfing candle. So now what basically I'm looking for is for us to stay in this 480. As you can see, they close it right at that 480. So Monday, I'm kind of going to be looking at to see if we clear this 482.8 area, 483 basically. If we can clear that, then I'm pretty sure we'll break through this and start heading towards all-time highs again. But if we can't, then I think this will be this point where we pivot again and start heading back for a pullback, maybe to 50%. If it gets even more bearish, then obviously back to these lows. But as you can see, like when I look at these fib levels, I'm always looking at okay, where they correspond on my daily. So the 78 retracement was big because it was a previous resistance area before we broke to these all-time highs. Then when we came back and we couldn't hold, we broke through, we retested again, and it completely broke down, and then 61%. But these gaps as well, the 61%, is kind of another support area that broke down. So I don't just look at the fibs and go, oh, okay, we're at this point, we should reject. No, I want to look at like areas that, coincide with these Fibonacci levels. So that's what I use on the bigger time frames to kind of figure it out. And you can go on the weekly as well. I always start with the weekly and then go to the daily. But the weekly, look at these rejection candles at the 78%. So previously, like I said, we rejected this 486 area, and we came back down before we broke out. So now we're using that as resistance again, and we made a upside down hammer, inverted hammer, and Monday we'll kind of see where we start heading out to. Like I said, 480 is going to be like a line in the sand area for me on QQQ. And then, like I said, daily. So I'm looking at basically down here, we had this huge, like, basically a zone. What is it? Demand zone? Demand, yeah, right. So demand zone down here, and we use it to hold to go back up. So I want us to come back down here. I would love it. I don't see it happening right away, but this big candle was kind of eye-opening for me just because we kind of made the same pattern here. We moved up on low volume, to all-time highs. Then we had the engulfing. Then we had a rejection candle at that, at the top of this body of the previous one. So like if you look at this one right here, the previous candle to all-time high candle on the daily, it had this body where we came up here to the top of it and we rejected twice and then we continued to fall. So what I'm looking for is some rejections up here for puts. You can swing puts out, but obviously most of us play ODTE or next day. So we're going to be looking at price action intraday. So it doesn't really matter what this does unless you're going to swing some puts. Um, as far as a SPY, where is my drawing here? I have so many different, I need to clean these up because
I know I have way too many.
which one is my one? I had one drawn, I believe it's this one. So SPY, on the other hand, this is one of the reasons I don't like trading SPY that I trade QQQ more often now, is because these retracements don't ever work. SPY just pushes further, usually than QQQ. As you can see, we came back up to almost all-time high. And this area of supply basically rejected. And then the next day we kind of rebounded almost all of it back. So SPY, you want to look at this all-time high area from like 563 to 565 as an area that it can reject. If it doesn't reject, obviously we're going to make new all-time highs, but it's a little bit more overextended than QQQ. QQQ follows, I feel like it follows fibs a lot better. Same with NQ over ES, and that's why I've been sticking to QQQ over SPY. I feel like it respects levels a little bit better. SPY just breaks through. Also because most of the market is tech driven at this point. So when SPY starts running and I'm like, okay, tech is down, then I got to find out which industry is running. And it kind of throws off my trading. So that's why I stick to QQQ. But again, like this can come up, reject here, and then create like a little handle for a cup and handle and break out. But I would watch this area going into Monday. Looking at the schedule, we don't really have too much data going on. You know what beige book is, Miriam?
No, I don't.
That's the
Beige book?
yeah, beige book. That's what I see on Wednesday at 11 o'clock PST. And then Thursday we have jobless claims, ADP employment, and then Friday US unemployment report. So not much going on
Wait, you
this
said
week.
Wednesday, you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm looking at a different, oh, you're looking at a different calendar. Okay.
Yeah.
I see the biggest things are going to be on Tuesday. We have consumer confidence at 10 a.m. or 10 a.m. PST. Thursday is going to be a big day with unemployment claims. And then Friday we have core PCE pre-market.
I was looking at the wrong week. I was looking at September.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's because before the call, before the Zoom, I kind of scrolled down to see what was going on, and I kind of went too far. But yeah, you're right. So core PCE, Friday, that's probably the only one, and then j jobless claims is um, honestly, I don't even believe these numbers, so I just look at the price reaction to them. I don't really care what's going on as far as like the economy because I don't believe anything that's being put out.
well, and we have some FOMC members speaking throughout the week as well. We have Bostic, Waller, um, just really throughout the week. So it could, we could have some plays with that, but yeah, just be careful because anytime I feel like these Fed members get on, it could be interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, 1:15 in the morning, FOMC member speaks? Really? On Wednesday?
Wednesday.
1:15 a.m. Eastern.
I,
That's interesting.
I
Okay.
always I don't know about your calendar on this market watch when I just see Bostic on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern.
I see that, and then I see Waller at 1:15 a.m.
1:15 a.m. So that's
Eastern.
is that technically Tuesday night? I don't know.
I don't even, yeah, I guess.
Maybe they're speaking in another country or something. I
Maybe,
have
yeah.
no idea why they would be up that late on the East
I
Coast.
know, it doesn't make sense.
But
I like your I like the chart that you pulled up on QQQ. I don't that's actually a good point because I'm always looking at NASDAQ and I'm always looking at ES and SPY. But when you just showed me when you showed everyone the QQQ chart, I actually really like that a lot more to trade.
Yeah, like I said, SPY has just been. I've had days where like SPY just doesn't cooperate to like my levels, or it'll slightly overextend and then just reject. Um, but QQQ is like pretty damn on point when it comes to like these areas. And even looking at these, like it's clean. Like look at this, like this area right here, boom, it just looks a lot cleaner to me. But that's on the daily. When I actually like go into pre-market trading, to like set out my day. I'm on like the 15-minute chart initially in pre-market, kind of looking at where the pre-market high is. I have like an auto indicator that tells me where the pre-market high is, pre-market low. Um, Previous day close is my yellow, previous day low is red, previous day high is green. So it's already marked out for me. So it kind of takes out the time I would spend marking those out. So it gives me more time to focus on like stuff like this. So like Friday, going into Friday. I already saw we were kind of like touching this pre-market high area and we're trending up in pre-market. And the previous day high is way too high up. It's about $5 move. So I wanted to find areas that might reject before we even get to the high. And looking at that, like on the 15-minute chart, Thursday, that this area was a breakdown. And then going into Wednesday, it was an area of confluence to me. Even in pre-market right here, we had a lot of confluence. So I had this marked out. I didn't take a trade here. I actually took it. I didn't get into a put until we broke here. Once we broke 480, I took puts down to here, uh, trimmed out, got stopped out on runners, and then I re-entered on a rejection candle here. But I think I got in right around this area for like I think the contracts went from $95, 95 cents basically to over $3, but I got out at 250 on all of mine. So that was a that was a pretty good move here, but in hindsight, I should have probably taken this, but my thing was Powell was still speaking. Even though we were rejecting, I didn't want to take it just because he could say one thing and this it would just blow through this, supply area. So I didn't want to risk it. But if Powell was, done and we were rejecting this area, this would have been a high probability setup for me because we were rejecting and we were breaking through this area, which we broke down the previous day. So I probably would have taken a good risk to reward would have been like entering on this candle, um, rejection right here, and then stop having to stop like up here, and then just waiting for the breakdown basically. But we didn't. So we waited to 480 because 480 is a big level. It's a psychological level, and it was my 70% retracement area, which we came down to. So I waited for that to clear before I got into anything. So that was that. But like I said, my thing in pre-market is always just to look for what we did the previous day. Obviously, I already have my highs and lows set up. I just want to look at if there's any other areas that we can reject on or bounce on. Now looking at the previous day, it was a downtrend day. So to me, we took calls because of Powell when we broke pre-market high, but my bias was on the downside just because we have been on a on the higher time frames. We've been on we came up, but we started going down. But this bigger time frame on the daily is a downtrend. So I'm looking for puts in good areas, especially since Thursday, like I said, we broke down hard. I was looking for puts on any bounces. So probably should have saved my BP for after Powell, but when he's speaking, you just kind of got to take that momentum trade and scalp that 30-50% because contracts move so fast. But after he was done, contract prices, the premiums died out and we continued to dump. So it was a good trade. But anyway, basically before I start my day, I always look at the bias on the higher time frame. If we're moving down, then I'm looking for puts on bounces, areas that we can reject. If we're moving up, then I'm looking for areas that we can come down to the bounce so we can get cheaper contracts. Because I usually don't like chasing like a breakout like this. My thing on this, actually, even during Powell's speech, I didn't get in on this candle. I think Dan got in, but I waited for this retest of the pre-market high. If this never came, I wouldn't have taken anything during Powell's speech. Just because to me, the risk to reward wouldn't have been there. Dan likes playing breakouts. That's his style. It works really well for him, especially with SPX because the contracts move so quick. You can scalp 30 to 50%. With QQQ, I'd rather wait for a cheap entry than chase this. So it was a good play. We got an out, but like I said, I don't chase until we retest. And if we don't get a retest, oh well, I missed out on the trade. There's millions of trades that go on throughout the day. Um, I could take the day off and come back the next day and find something else instead of chasing something and getting burned. But yeah, that's QQQ. What I'm seeing going into the week, like I said, 480 line in the sand. I want to see what we do. If we go back to this 483 area and we reject, I would, love for puts. So what I'm looking for is either we go up here and reject and we take puts, or we break down 480 and we start taking puts on a retest of 480 all the way down to this 475 area, which is Friday's low, and maybe even down to this 473 area, 474. For SPY, like I said, looking for tests of these highs, this 563 to 565 area is all-time high area. I would look for a push to there for a rejection. If we don't reject, wait for the breakout, retest, and go from there. Break down to this 560 area, which we held pretty well afterwards. If we break down there, then we have some room down to 557 and beyond. So that's what I'm seeing on there. I don't know if you have anything on those, Miriam.
Yeah, I think everything that you said, I agree with. I think the one thing I would add is whenever we get such a big move that we did on Thursday, I always like to draw, especially because we got such a like a bearish engulfing candle, essentially what we got. I like to draw that as a box on the daily. So what I do is I will take Thursday's high and Thursday's low and essentially like box it. So for me, anything in that range is more of a lower probability trade to me unless we get a breakout of either direction. So that's something I always look at because right now it's all inside action, right? On Friday we didn't do anything. We just stayed inside that box. So a bigger probability trade to me is going to be looking at the breakout of above or the breakout below. Because what I could also see is rejections or fake outs from this box. So we could try, hitting the top of this box and then just like faking out and then dropping back down, doing the same thing on the bottom side too. So making a fake breakdown and then just bouncing. So until we actually get a break of either side, that's where I would just be a little bit more cautious on the trades that you take. Of course, there's always a trade to take, right? But that's just something I look at specifically on the daily, and this is what I'm going to be looking at this week in particular. So I think for me, like, yeah, I would want to see Thursday's high take out or be strongly rejected. Like, I don't want to see us just like pitter patter in this area. Like, I want to see how we react. So
Right.
that level is going to be really important to me on the SPY. So Thursday's high is going to be really important to me. Um, and again, that's essentially, we're what 4 points away from all-time high at this
Right.
point.
And
So,
that's your point where if we break that high, we could see a fake out to that all-time high and then reject. It might just take out the high and come back down. So I would be more inclined to play the rejection than try to chase it into that all-time high. So
yeah, yeah. So that's what I would just add to that. Um, I also want to see how futures are going to be, how they're going to play out overnight. The one level on ES that, and I'm sorry, I don't have my chart open, but on ES, the one level that I noticed we have a lot of action in is 53 53, 50, 5630s. So the 5630s is going to be a key area that I look at. 5631 specifically to like 25. That area right there is going to be, yeah, like exactly like this little area. I'm particularly watching. And I'll give you guys like more detailed like levels once I once I figure this out. But this is essentially the area that I'd be looking at for any sort of reaction. And again, this isn't Thursday's like high and low per se, but I would just I noticed a lot of action in this area. Every time right now we're sitting above, right? So if we come down to that area and we just bounce, that is going to tell me that, we might try to take it up. If we get down there and we just like break through, um, I'll be a little bit more cautious of that. Um, I think right now, Yeah. I
Like,
think right now I'm shooting towards the downside, but again, anything could happen, right? We could just break through all-time highs. Um, and I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be a bear and catch the downside move. I'm just, as long as we stay in this box, I'm not really sure how the market wants to react yet. And that's why I like to see what futures does over market overnight. So I would just say monitor the buy response in the 2630 range on ES.
one thing I just remembered, we have Nvidia earnings on Wednesday. So
Oh, that's right.
that
Yeah.
can that can that can literally break the market or break it out. So that's going to be huge. It can either become the biggest market cap, in the stock
Hmm.
market, or it can bring us back down to our knees. So it's going to be something to watch Wednesday after. So hopefully we don't get chopped Monday and Tuesday because I really hate waiting midweek to start, getting some good moves. But it could happen, or we can see, people front running Nvidia like they usually do because so far it's beat every freaking earnings for the past what year and a half now
Yeah.
by big margins. So, but one thing I did notice on SPY before we move out is we did fill this gap right here.
Hmm.
So that's good.
Yeah.
But that just means that now that that gap's taken out, we can come back down.
Yeah, like I said, I want to monitor overnight futures. I am more bearish, but if we hold that level that I mentioned on futures, the 56.26 to 56.30, if we come down there and just bounce, my bias is going to turn long. Because I could see us breaking easily. I mean, easily, we're not too far from it. Breaking that top box from Thursday, we could break that. If we hold that level, that'll give me more conviction that we're going to break that level. I'm probably not going to chase it. I would much rather let it break out and then wait for a retest to get long again.
Mhm.
Um, I would much rather do that just because, there's too many top wicking. If you look at the chart, there's a lot of top wicking, and I'd rather just take the retest at that point. So
Definitely.
that's something I'd be looking for. Also, watch the VIX. VIX has been hovering around like 17-ish area, I want to say. Um, I think if we find traction below like 17.7, okay, so now it was at like 15, right? Yeah, I think if we find traction above 17.7, then I would say, expect for that breakout and expect for new highs. Um, but yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance. I think there's a pretty good chance that we see the upside break this week.
Mhm.
Um, given obviously everything else that I just said.
Right.
So yeah,
Uh,
but watch NVIDIA could totally help move this market too. So
Definitely, it can move tech. There's a lot of things that moved up. We've had this rally. What has it been like a few weeks now, 2 weeks since we bottomed,
yeah.
and we've had a pretty big move up if you think about it. Like 423 on QQ all the way to 486. That's 60 points, 65 points
Hmm.
in 2 weeks, 3 weeks now. So
Yeah.
it's kind of overextended. We could get a pullback, and then bounce like you said at your levels you had, or we can just break down. But like I said, like I keep saying, is it's reacting to price action. I hate when people are like try to predict where everything's gonna go. Like it's good to make charts and predict stuff. I do it on Sunday. I don't even chart during the week just because I feel like there's no point in predicting where something's gonna go. Anything can happen throughout the day. I know my levels. I know what my entry criteria is. I know that I take stuff off of tests of like the 13 EMA or the 48 EMA or VWAP, but that's basically me reacting to what's happening throughout the day. I'm not gonna be like, well, we should be bullish today, so I'm gonna just, any pullback, I'm gonna buy it because no, we've seen we've seen what happens with that. We've seen huge rejections even though we're
Hmm.
bullish. Especially Thursday. Like Thursday was I mean, I thought we started the day, we made a new high. I'm like, oh shit, like
I was bullish that day.
yeah, I was
I
because
even came into the chat. I was like, I'm bullish today. Like, look at futures. And then look what we got.
we made a new high by a substantial amount. Like we had a big move overnight, a 3-4 point move on QQQ. and then we just gave it all up, and
Mhm.
then and then some. So
Mhm.
but yeah, like I said, just react to the price action. And I only use these EMAs for a retest basically. So if it's a bullish day, I'll get in, I'll re-enter, or bearish day right here. This was a perfect entry. We were, we were uh we were just chopping around here, and then we rejected the 13 and dumped hard. I mean, this would have been a better entry than up here, safer entry. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's what I use it for. And then also sometimes I'll use it for at the opening candle. I've taken scalps at open on NQ, where if I see the EMAs are like far apart and we're like holding it, I might take a NQ scalp off of it with a stop loss under and just scalp like small 20, 30 point move right at open, because at open everybody's just piling on at open. So if it looks bullish, take some longs, take some shorts if it's bearish. So I'll use that, for that. But like I said, the EMAs and the VWAP are usually just there for me to find some re-entries. That's about it.
Yeah, I do like looking at the first, and I've said this before, like the first 30 minutes of the market is really telling. Typically, especially if we have news, right? Like a lot of times institutional investors pretty much don't enter the market until around 10:30 Eastern. So what I like to look at sometimes, what I think a good strategy alone is looking at opening range. The opening range, like you can literally put a box between the high and low from the market open to like 10 o'clock and
Mhm.
see the first 30 minutes and then play that, because that essentially, if you box that area, you can either play the breakout, the retests of that box. You'll tend to notice that every time we come to that level, we either bounce or break through. But like a lot of times traders use this strategy to actually not trade within the box. Like it's essentially called like a penalty box. Like you
Yeah.
don't trade in unless it's above or below this box area. So that is something else I also look at. Is, everything that you just have on here too, like pre-market high, pre-market low, those will usually be in confluence with those opening range areas. And you'll start to notice like once we break a certain area, or like if we start chopping around, like that's a pretty choppy day unless we get a breakout. So that's something else I'm looking at. I'm also looking at like what is relatively strong and what is relatively weak in the market compared to everything else, right? Like to me, AMD has been one of those relatively weak companies. We cannot seem to get above 160. Like that area to me, 162 to 164 is just a tough area to break out. So, oh yeah, you have similar levels
Literally,
too.
yeah. I
Yeah.
stopped trading AMD just because of like moves like this, where off of I believe earnings were right here. Even earnings, like we moved up off of earnings, like almost, what is it, $20? We
Mm.
just collapsed. Here, looking at here, we bounced 30 points and then we just collapsed. Every time we break out, just an even bigger collapse happens. So that's just been AMD. That's why I kind of stopped playing it. But like even Tesla, like you said, looking for
Tesla's
strong
another one.
stocks. Tesla's been strong besides Thursday. Everything was weak Thursday, but
Yeah.
on Friday, like it held up. It never went to its lows or opening print, or even the gap fill yesterday's low. It kind of stayed above its pre-market high. Yeah, it had a dip, but it was stronger than anything else in the market.
Yeah, the levels that I watch for Tesla are going to be that 215 area and that 220, 221 area, which I see you also have.
Yeah.
Um, those levels I feel like right now have been kind of like holding for now. Um, but at the same time, like I mean, I already see like a downside trend line to the upside right now. Like we could even, yeah, you could even draw a trend line there and see if we that could be a play in its own. So we are squeezing. It looks like we kind of are squeezing on Tesla too, even another trend line to the from the bottom. Um, so those are sort of some things that I look at too, of like what is moving nicely with the overall market. I mean, obviously the overall market kind of had that, we had that dip on Thursday, but even Meta to me was Meta was on my list last week for something to trade to the long. Um And come Thursday, we actually got back down below the level that I want to see it at, which is 530. So right now we're at 528, I believe. Yeah.
This
But
double or triple top, like
mhm.
if it can't break to this 540 and hold it, then we could probably take some puts on this.
Well, we're even in a box range right now on Meta, what I see right now. We're just chopping around in this zone. Yeah, you can even take exactly. That's like the same area that I'm looking at. So like right here to me is not even really something that I'm interested in taking. I would at this point I'd rather just wait and for a breakout from either point. We're even right at, is that the 13 on for you?
This,
Yeah,
yeah,
even breaking the 13. I mean, we could hold that level, but we broke that on the daily, then that would look good for shorts.
yep, down, 520 to 500 basically.
Hmm.
You could play some puts. Yeah, basically wait for either side to break. If we break up here and we retest 540, then we're going higher. If we break below and then we can push to 500 and even below. So always wait for the retest. That's one of the biggest things I've learned is not chasing, momentum's cool if you're gonna scalp real quick, but it can burn you, especially if you're not experienced. And if you're holding one contract and playing momentum, I can almost guarantee you're gonna get burned because when it's pushing like that and you see 30-40% right away, your brain instantly goes, oh, well, it went 30% in 2 minutes. This thing can go, 60, 70 to
Mhm.
100% because you have one contract. That thing has one red candle, it's back to break even or even
Yeah.
below, and then you're cutting for a loss. Might as well take the 30% and move out. But like if you're like Dan who plays like 6 to 10 contracts on SPX,
Hmm.
then yeah, you can play the momentum breakout because if you trim half your contract at 30-40%, the rest of them could go back to break even and you still made a ton of money off that play. So, but if
Yep.
you're one contract, you might have just blown your entire buying power chasing one candle and then you're done for the day. So,
Yeah, 100%. I don't even recommend trading SPX under 5 contracts.
yeah.
If you can't do that, just trade SPY. Um, is anyone interested in any particular stocks? I know we kind of like glossed over a few here, but we can look at specific ones.
I
Let me
know
see.
I know Joel's not in here, but he was talking about Baba. The
Oh
only
yeah, Baba.
he's asking he's long term on Baba. Baba has you can see this with
Ooh,
drawing a trend line. This wedge right here, you don't even have to start it from up here, but this wedge right here that's building, if it breaks out, it can go. But every time it seems to break out, they pull it back down. And I don't know if that's the Chinese government playing games, but the news that came out that Joel's been hyped about is that I believe China's letting their citizens now invest in Chinese stock through like a certain broker. Let me see if I can find his post. He literally talked about this on he posted on Friday, I believe. Okay, that's Bitcoin.
oh yeah, Bitcoin was.
Yeah, right here. Alibaba shareholders have just approved to upgrade its HK listing, that's Hong Kong, listing to a primary one starting August 28th. This move will finally let investors who live in China invest in Alibaba shares via Stock Connect. It's expected to attract billions in investments from them. So that can be huge for a stock like this that's basically ready to explode. It needs some type of news because I don't know if anyone else does Amazon or any type of e-com. I've been in it. I think Miriam's done it.
Hmm.
Alibaba is probably the biggest thing. I think it's probably more important than Amazon at this point, just because that's where everybody sources everything from. Whether
Hmm.
you're on Amazon, Shopify, not Spotify, Shopify, or you even sell in physical stores, brick and mortars, you're getting a lot of your stuff from China. America's
Yeah.
manufacturing is pretty expensive and we don't have too much of it. China's taking that. So Alibaba is everything. So to me, when a stock is being held like this low, under 100 for this long, every time it pops up, it's brought back down. That's to me that there's manipulation there. And now if China's allowing their people to invest in it, I think long term, Alibaba's great. Like there isn't too much downside on this. If you look at the all-time high charts, we're pretty much based. I mean, you can pretty much have a stop loss under 66 on your long-term portfolio, and your upside is pretty huge. I know COVID
Hmm.
inflated a lot of things, but there's a lot more upside to this. This is something I would play on my long-term portfolio, or leap calls. I definitely wouldn't try to, get some puts on this and short this just because of this huge base down here. But yeah, I think Joel's right. This thing's ready to explode. So.
Hmm.
Any other tickers anyone wants to put in the chat, we can go over it. Oh shoot, I didn't even know people were typing. Um,
Serve. I know. I just saw it like a couple minutes ago too.
serve? Which one's serve? SURV?
SCRV. It's the one that got a pretty decent pop
Ooh, okay.
days ago or a couple weeks ago.
I mean, this is a huge rejection right here. Um, base, I would say probably around this zone right here, this wick, all the way down to this area, you would look for calls.
Mm-hmm.
Under that, you're basically asking for a push down to $4. Basically, what does Gen Z call this? Like a fair value gap. Fair value gap down to here. So basically a $3 move down, three and a half. So your risk would be basically to start buying calls in this area between 9 and 7.5, 7.7. And then if it breaks below that, then you cut out. So I would look for a bounce in this area, definitely. But this rejection was nasty. So like I said, I would wait for this area to take anything. That's all I see.
Tot- Tati, you're long. Are you long this? Okay, you have it for a long. Okay.
What's your entry? Did you chase or?
I think you got in at 12. Yeah, 12.
That's pretty much like a rejection area right here. This is gonna be so your entry would be here, if you want to buy more down here, and then if you can get your average down, scale out probably 12 and then to this 15 area. What do you think? I think
Yeah.
that's what I think.
Yeah. I like the box that you drew. I mean it shows you're showing the 48 on there too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Let's here, I'll do this. That's
I have the same levels. I would say like $9 would be like a buy zone. Anywhere from $9.05 to $7.08 would be a buy. I would watch that area and see if we hold.
yeah, see the 50 right here. This is the 50 MA, simple moving average. It's starting to move up. So by the time this gets into the zone, you're probably looking at the 50 being right around here, the 7.75 area. So yeah, I'd definitely say look for a bounce in this area to go along.
We are on the daily holding the 9 for now. I don't have the other 200 or anything like that on
There's
mine, but
200 on this one.
okay, that's the red line for you.
So this is the 50 and then
Oh, the
this
50.
20.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
No 200 because it's only been, well, it's not even been 200 days since it's been, what is this? Robotics? Okay, I've never even heard of this.
They had that big move that they had. Actually don't know what it was due to. I just remember that day a lot of people were going crazy because it had like I mean, look at the move it made from what, $1 something to $24. So it got a lot of momentum or headway in the news, but
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
someone talking.
that was, that
Joseph, I
was,
think your mic's on.
I got him.
I got him.
Um, so news, what day was that?
Oh,
720.
that's right. Nvidia bought 10% of the company. That's right. That's right.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that now.
Hmm.
Um, okay. Does that help, Tati? Or is there anything else that you wanted to look at specifically? I know you said you're holding long term. Um are you wanting to buy more at those levels? Also, anyone else who wants to see anything, let us know.
Yeah, you
Um,
guys are free to unmute yourselves and talk if you don't want to type.
I would say if you can pull up Apple real quick,
Mhm.
I would want to sell and take profit then buy more. Okay. watching Nike. Interesting.
Yep.
Apple real quick, I want to show you guys that we are also like in this box range on Apple, but notice like the 225 and 220 levels on Apple are going to be ones that I have on watch. If you notice, we've been like holding those levels, 225 specifically right now. Um, like that level to me is a pretty significant level on Apple. So I would just watch to see if you know, if we continue to hold that. Otherwise, obviously we have some downside movement. But um if you
Well,
guys are interested in trading Apple, those are just levels that I would look at. We
just
did
like
get a rejection of it there.
with like QQQ and stuff, kind of the same pattern. In golfing, we kind of gotta, like you said, break this high or the low
Mm-hmm.
for some movement. But on Apple, the 50 and the 20 are sitting right at 220. So they're converging. That could be another area for a bounce if we get a pullback. If the pullback's on like low volume and we hold this, then we can move back up. But a lot of stuff right now, what I see is like a head bet was built on the all-time high. We had the shoulder here. The second shoulder is having trouble, breaking out to the head. So it's like it could be a head, a big head and shoulders on a daily. So QQQ, Apple, I think Microsoft was the other one I saw. Microsoft is struggling right here at this 430 area. Made the all-time highs and then we came back down, broke the previous breakout area, and now we're using it as resistance. So you want it over 230 if you're going to play long, if and then play the rejection on this. But this to me looks more bearish than anything, just because this is one of the few stocks that had it engulfing and then was never able to get
Mm-hmm.
any real traction. So this could be it held the 20, but if the 20 is under 50 and if the 20 goes under 200 right here, then this thing's going down. And that's basically from that CrowdStrike thing, right? The hacking, I think that really uh, hurt
Mm-hmm.
hurt Microsoft. They're still dealing with that hack.
Dang.
Nike, you said? Let's see.
Yeah, Nike has an interesting chart. We're actually in a gap fill on Nike right now. Major gap fill on the daily.
Yeah, Nike, I would honestly want it to retest a little bit, get back down to this 80 area, maybe 80 to 82 to 80. Or break above this, like you said, this engulfing candle that every stock looks like it got.
We have clear flat top resistance sitting at 88.73. Um, it was a double bottom essentially before the gap broke on the daily, but I'm seeing that as potential. Like, I mean, if I don't know if I don't know if you're thinking of going long or short on this, Marvo. I can argue both sides to it just because we are in the middle of a gap. Right now, like if you were going long, I would say 88.73 would be that point that you would want to take profit. If, for example, you were in this. But other than that, like it's seeming like it's wanting to hold. Next level down to the downside, I see it's 81.77. And then there's another gap to fill. So it's an interesting chart in that way because we're essentially in like a double gap area. Um,
Yeah,
so if we break, like if, for example, if we broke 82, um, 81.77, if we broke that, we definitely would have room to fill the gap, which is in confluence right now with the 21-day moving average, which is also another flat top resistance area at 79. So again, you can argue both sides for Nike, I think, but I wouldn't take any long unless we broke above 85. And then, like I said, you can take that up to 88. Otherwise, breaking 80, 82, you can take that down to 79. Were you long or short on it? Oh, an interesting short. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you can argue both sides. So I think it's a cool chart, actually. I actually don't mind it. I wouldn't mind trading. I don't think I've ever traded Nike though. Maybe I did once. I don't
I
remember.
honestly, I was looking at it a few weeks ago at this area right here. I was waiting for I saw the breakout. Once this breakout happened, I was waiting for a retest. It never came, so I kind of just took it off my watch list.
You were gonna take it for the long on the retest?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I guess I
Dang.
could have taken it like here. just because
Yeah.
it tested this, top. But I don't know. I've never traded. I usually don't like trading names anymore that I've never traded. I don't care how much momentum it gets. Like look at Netflix, for instance. I hadn't traded this in probably a year, and I decided to take calls on this breakout, and it faked me out, and I had to take a loss on this. So I'm like, okay, I'm not trading that anymore. So I kind of stick with Nvidia, Tesla, QQQ. That's about it. Amazon here and there. AMD, if it's ever gains some momentum again, maybe I'll get back to it. Meta, I haven't traded in like I'd say probably a year. A lot of these names, like I said, I stick to Nvidia's been giving really good moves. If you guys, this is one of the few ones where the stock price is still pretty cheap. Contracts are
Hmm.
pretty decently priced, and the moves you get throughout the day are pretty decent.
Dude,
Contracts.
Marbo took a really good short on Thursday.
Oh
That
yeah,
was a sick trade that he took. I wasn't even looking at the contracts, but I'm sure the premiums were moving really well on that.
yeah. And Nvidia with earnings coming up Wednesday again. Yeah, the box right here, 120. I'd say 122 technically, or 124 to 130. You
Mhm.
really want to just play the range, but if earnings breaks this out, this thing's going to all-time highs probably
For
again.
sure. I
But
could
if
see
you
that,
can't,
yeah.
115 and what was that one level? 106 area, this area right here,
Mm.
zones. But yeah, earnings will be the make or break for this. The only thing I look for is on earnings is I'm pretty sure they're gonna beat, but how big is the beat? Because everybody's always expecting a huge beat on Nvidia. So what happens if it doesn't beat as big as people are expecting it to? I think that's what we're gonna be banking on, because it's most likely going to beat earnings. So I wouldn't bet um on it missing earnings. I would more want to see how big of a beat it is. If it's not as expected, expect a pull down, because we've moved up. What is it, like 30-40%, 30% in 2 weeks, 3 weeks on this? That doesn't really happen, on
Yeah.
stock this cheap, at these levels, like 100 to 130 basically in 2 weeks. Doesn't really happen. So it's kind of overextended. So if it's not a huge beat, I could see it coming down.
Yeah, another thing I don't want to ever hear about you guys is trying to gamble on earnings. Like, don't try to front run and say, oh, just because we think it's going to be, and oh, let me get calls. First of all, the contracts are going to be super inflated because of IV, and they're going to be way too expensive. So even if Nvidia gives you the move and you're on the right side, you try to sell that at the open, and good luck. You need a massive move in order to even get a profit out of that, because IV is just going to get crushed. So I always just say, like, unless you're just trying to gamble, like don't even do it. Don't put your hard-earned money at stake like that. Just play after earnings. I always just try to play after earnings and see what I can get from that. I'm not even going to play Nvidia until we get earnings, because their contracts are going to be super inflated.
Oh yeah,
So
this week is, yeah. I had a friend actually who gambled. He still does it. He's not our Discord anymore, but this guy made 20 grand on Amazon calls off earnings. And I
oh my
asked him like why he even took it. Like, did you know, like, there? He was like, no, I just had a. He said God talked to me and told me. I was like, okay.
stop.
I'm religious, so I don't knock it, but it's like I'm that's
He said God told him to take calls.
and that's fine. He made that 20 grand, and I told him to pull it out, and he didn't, and he gambled on another earnings a few days later and lost it also.
Leave God out of this. This has to do.
Yeah. I
Oh
mean,
my goodness.
there's
Okay, well,
there's like
like I said, just wait until after earnings. Like, contracts aren't even going to be worth it. I did that once on Microsoft earnings. Stupid. It ended up actually working in my favor, but Microsoft moved like almost 70 points to the upside, and I barely got anything out of it. So it's not even worth it. Don't even waste your money like that. Just wait until after earnings. Contracts will be cheaper anyway.
one of my favorite things to do is hope that earnings are flat, like the stock is flat after earnings, because the next day what happens is both calls and puts get crushed hard. So like in the money at the money contracts basically go from like being, $2, $3 to being like 40, 50 cents. And people are just trying to sell. They get whatever they can out of it. So people are just selling and selling. And that's when you buy, whether you think it's going to be calls or puts, you can kind of look at the chart and tell like at open, especially if the earnings were good and it just didn't move. You're like, okay, well, it was flat, even though the earnings were good. You can buy some calls that open for super cheap and they'll literally go like 300, 400, 500% in
Hmm.
5 minutes. So I would rather play that than play the earnings.
Hmm.
So Apple's one of
Agree.
them that always like literally does that. So like I don't think it was I don't know if it was this earnings where it opened flat the next day. But it's happened quite a few times and Apple contracts are they're already cheap. So when it gets crushed, they're like 20 cents a contract and you can
Hmm.
literally sell them for 1,000% because they'll go to $1 easily.
Yeah.
$1. So that's something I would look for to play on earnings. Like Nvidia, hopefully they end up flat. I hope they stay in that 125 to 130 range come Thursday morning. And one,
Mhm.
it's Thursday, so there's 2 days to expiration, and it's IV crush. Those contracts are going to be so cheap that you can play. I would play calls off of it. So that's what I would wait for on Nvidia. I don't know what else you guys want to look at, like coin. This is all to me. Coin is all off of Bitcoin. I don't even really care about charting this, just because if Bitcoin's running, coin's gonna run. If you can
Yeah.
chart Bitcoin and see like, okay, Bitcoin's gonna bounce here, most likely coin is too. But to me, this kind of looks like a bear flag. Like this doesn't look too great. The 20 fell below the 50. It's barely holding on to the 200 MA, making a bear flag. If it breaks below this 193, it's probably going down to 150.
Mm.
So, but if it could break back above and get to the zone, and there'd be some upsides, but it's all depending on Bitcoin. So
What is Bitcoin even at right now? I thought they had like a little bit of a move up.
I think
Bitcoin.
64, Joel posted 64,000 on
Yeah.
Friday, but I don't know if it's
64.5 is what
yeah,
it's at.
64.5. Yep.
Okay.
Hmm. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they look like they've been holding like the
Yeah.
63, 64 area actually last 5 days. Uh, okay.
Any
Yeah,
other
if there's anything you guys want us to chart or look at, like I said, I always like to look at futures overnight. Just obviously I trade futures to begin with, but
what I
what are we
say,
at right now with futures? I don't even
what I
know.
say, Miriam. Remember
Dang, yep,
I said
you
this is the
did.
perfect short area.
You
It's
called
like
that for sure.
60 points. Dang, I should have my top step open too.
Are you
Oh,
able to trade
yeah.
after you get funded, you're able to trade like anytime?
Yeah, you can so even on the combine, um you can trade after hours. It's just so if
It
you
wouldn't let me.
are you sure?
Yeah,
When
I was
were
literally in a trade and it liquidated me, and I was like, "What the hell?" And it said you can only trade within this particular, like in the intraday or like 15 minutes after, and it wouldn't
so
let me trade.
15 minutes after no, so what it is it's done at 1 p.m. our time,
Yeah.
and you have to wait till futures open at 6 o'clock, I think. Once
Oh.
they open at 6 o'clock, you can trade all the way till the next
Oh,
day.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would I like Sundays. I've traded on Sundays because I'm like because my thing on Sundays is it's the market just opened. There's no news coming out on a Sunday, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Everybody's kind of like getting ready for the day. It's just pure price action. So to me, when I saw this, I was like, oh, it's rejecting here. This is the area that we broke down on, on Friday. If I had my thing open, I literally would have taken this short with a stop loss right above this wick.
That
But
is like a textbook supply zone area two, or yeah, supply zone area two. Like if you look at that, so we had a drop when Powell was done speaking, and yeah, right there. And then we had a little bit of consolidation and then another drop. That is like a textbook 2 bar play, 3 bar setup play. Because essentially your zone would be that green, that whole green candle, the bottom and the top of that candle. I
what
mean, you could even do like the body of it, but that's essentially like almost like a textbook 3 bar play.
well, this is where we took puts. Like if I go back to QQQ, exactly what I was talking. Like once we had that big drop. what you wanted to do is wait for it to, come back. Wait, where's my, oh, okay, this is what I want. So we came back to pre-market high and we couldn't break it. So that's why I was like, okay, well, we're not closing above it. It's rejecting. It's barely, it's literally rejecting this area. So that was when we took those cheap puts and got, 200% almost on them. But
Hmm.
but again, going back to NQ, again, like it literally came back into the zone, like you said. And when it dropped, even now, right now, it's in this supply area.
Hmm.
Uh, so you can
Hmm.
even take
Yeah.
some longs here if it holds and probably make it because on overnight trading, unless there's some big movement going on, it usually just kind of like bounces around supply and demand areas because it's
Hmm.
it's basically building the range, the pre-market range, so that when you open the next day, you kind of know you kind of have your pre-market high and low area.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was a good area to take for a short, absolutely. I did end up taking that on NASDAQ too. I took a short like at the 19,870 area, I believe.
Right now?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay, okay.
Was last week.
Gotcha. Yeah, right now on my top step, I have three funded accounts and they copy trade. So
Nice.
I'm trying to get it to like 6,000 on each one. And then I believe the you can cash out 2,000 at a time every 2 weeks. Um,
Oh, like half your account?
yeah, so even okay, so technically if you're a $50,000 account and you get it to 52,100, you can cash out 2 grand. But the problem is once you do that, your stop loss is only $100.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to build like at least a $2,000 buffer so that you have some room to play with. But I want to build a little bit bigger, like 6 grand. So when I pull 2 grand, I'll still have like a 4 grand thing. But
Yeah.
to me, I have three accounts. So if I can get it to 6,000, 5,000, 6,000 area and pull out 2 grand, that's 6 grand over three accounts that I'm pulling. So that's a that's the whole month basically. That's why
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather have multiple accounts. And I got in on Top Step when it was 17 or 19 a month. It was on a discount. So those,
Dang.
yeah, so the crazy thing is those combines, I can fail them as many times as I want and still keep that same billing because every month, once the billing re-hits, they only charge you $19 and they reset your account to 50. So if I trade for 2 weeks and blow my combine, I don't have to buy a new one. I just have to wait till next month's billing comes and they reset it to my 50,000 and I start over again.
What?
Yeah. So if you got a good deal on it, if you were able to get a discount on your combine, I would just keep it. I wouldn't buy a new account. If you blow your account, just take a month off from trading futures on that account.
Wait, wait, wait. So you're locked in. Hold on. But you're locked in for the combine price every single month, paying $19. But once you're funded, are you still paying that $19?
That I don't know. That because I just so it's a funded account, so it's new on this. I haven't tested that there yet. I don't want to blow my account, but I think with the funded, you pay a one-time activation fee of 150. So I don't think there's a monthly.
But I want to say there is a monthly because technically now, oh, so what I've read is because Top Step, as a funded trader with Top Step, you're technically considered a professional trader.
Okay.
So you have to pay separate data fees,
Mhm.
and they don't because they don't cover that anymore as a funded trader. And then you have to pay like a subscription essentially because they see you as like a professional trader with Top Step. So I don't know how much that is. I want to say it's like 130 or something per no matter what your account size is. Um, but I also just saw that Asian posted that there's no more drawdown, daily drawdown.
Yeah. Well, the daily drawdown was 1,000 to protect you from hitting that 2,000 like
Uh-huh.
full, limit. Because at that point you blow the combine and has to start over. So I was trying to like keep people from blowing their account in one day.
Mm.
It's 2 days. So if you want to change it from 1,000 to 500, or you want to do 2,000 as your stop, you can.
Right, which I think is smart. I think people should have like, a max loss limit set regardless, but because it's so, especially if you're not really used to trading futures, I think that's super important. I just saw that Charlie said that Apex offers no monthly subscription after you're funded. That's really nice. Yeah, that's really nice. But I think they're doing that now that they took away the drawdown. I think a lot more resets are gonna happen.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Like,
definitely.
Man, like it's very easy. Especially like the one I'm doing, I think the drawdown is 2,000 a day, and then the max loss limit is 3,000. You know how easy it is to lose or make $3,000 in a $100,000. I mean, just no account value period, but like losing 2 grand on futures is if you're not careful, that's easy to do.
That's why I've started doing a hard stop loss on the chart. Like, let me see.
Yeah, you have to with futures.
Yeah. I really like Top Step because of their Top Step X, because it's basically, it's basically trading view. So,
Hmm.
and then setting the stops is super easy. I literally, like, if like honest, like today, just for instance, on Sunday, if I were to trade this, I probably wouldn't even stand in front of my computer. I would have put my stop loss right above this wick, and then a take profit probably like 20 points, because I don't really care about getting the full move. If I got even from here to here,
That's 100 points right there. We just moved.
points, and then yeah, basically 100. I probably would have taken profit right here, just because it's that looks like a area of supply too. I would have taken profit. I would have set those and would have went about my Sunday. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's also pre-market high from Friday before.
yeah, basically, yeah, exactly. So, but right now, like even right now, like it's using this as kind of support. So if you were trading, if I had my account, I would take a long right here with a stop loss and just take profit. Same thing, right around this area, about 30 points. That's $600 on NQ. That's I mean, that's 100. Isn't that 100% basically?
40 points on NQ is 100%.
40 points. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right around there. And then
Yeah.
if you have three accounts, that's 1,800.
Yeah.
What more do you want? 30.
No, exactly. And I think that's where the greed sets in with futures because like you don't need to take a lot of lots. Like one lot on NASDAQ is plenty, like plenty. If you have a good entry on NASDAQ, and honestly, like the strategy that I've been implementing too is like I set a stop loss immediately after I get into a trade. And I'll set it like where I would normally, take the loss. But if it's moving in the direction, I just continue moving my stop because whatever profits I'm making after that doesn't really matter. Like I've hit my take, my profit whatever for the day, but it's like just continue trailing it. And if it keeps going, keep going. Um, one thing I was gonna say too, I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I think we can see a lot more people doing this challenge if they're not in it already, especially with this no drawdown. But
Right here, already a 20-point move in one.
yeah.
So that's
What is your max like? Do you have like a point value that you look at that you're like, I'm absolutely not losing
I try
this
not to
much?
lose more than 20 points. Like if I like this wick right here, 15 to 32, that's about 17 points. That's fine for me. But if it was like this wick right here, 8
Hmm.
to 18, that's 40 points. I'm probably not taking this. I would probably take it here and rather, get stopped out for 10 points than try to wait for it to, go down and then get in a little late. So your entry's got to be pretty, pretty on point, because like you said, with Nasdaq, you can literally get stopped out super quick.
Hmm.
Like Buno, I know Buno was in. He got in here, and then they swept people's stop losses here, and he got stopped. But then he got back in and made it back.
Hmm.
But since I was in options, I got in around here. I believe I got in like a little bit more expensive. I almost stopped out because my contracts went from 95, I believe, down to 70 or 65.
Hmm.
So, it was about 20%, 30% loss. Yeah, 30% basically. I was gonna stop, and then I saw it rejecting. And I held on, and then it went from 65 all the way down to 310 or whatever. But yeah, I kind of was telling Bruno, I was like, once I saw this jump up and then reject, I told him, bro, there's that stop loss hunt, and he was like, fuck, I got stopped out. So you got to be careful with NQ like that, because
Yeah.
if you got in here, that's an $800 loss right there, or what is
Yeah.
20, yeah, about 30 point $600 loss. I don't want to take a $600 loss.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I always say too, like, like when I do trade, because I still trade ES too, right? And I think that there are some days, it's more rare, but like there are some days where I feel like ES has a better movement than the NASDAQ. Like Friday to me, look at the wicks, look at those wicks on Friday. Like some of these are nasty, right? And so I feel like even for me, I took a short on SPY and I got stopped out. And
Mhm.
then it ended up my contracts came back from the dead. So it's Fridays are kind of interesting days to begin with, but like I always say to you guys, I want to make sure futures are in sync with each other because that's going to be indicative of how well the market moves overall and how well it gives you the movement and how well it respects the levels that you place. Um, and I just feel like there are some days where both of them are just not cooperating with each other, and you might get a move in one, but not in the other. And it's just like super choppy action. So that's just another thing to always be mindful of if you trade futures, like how well ES and NASDAQ are in sync with each other.
Yeah,
Um,
Charlie said after funding stage on Top Step, there's no more monthly fees. But there's level two data, $39 a month.
mm,
So
oh, okay. I wonder what I need to look into that then. I mean, I'm already doing my challenge, but I've heard of Apex being a good one too.
here's
I
my
just
thing
don't
with
know what platforms you're allowed to trade on with Apex.
Apex is Tradeovate. I believe you could connect TradingView, Ninja Trader.
Oh,
The only
nice.
thing about Apex I don't like, I don't know if they still have it, is the trailing drawdown.
They
So
still
it's
do, unfortunately.
yeah,
That's the only thing it sucks. Yeah.
it's a
Trailing drawdown, what is that?
live trading drawdown. So
Yes.
just in like for Marion, like if I got in right here, right at 677, and I go up to whatever, like I'm up 2 grand, right? My
Mhm.
trailing drawdown is in the day is 2000. So if I'm up four, let's say I'm up 4 grand, right? And I don't close out and it goes back up to only being up 2 grand, right? It'll close my entire, I failed the combine.
No.
Yeah, it's live trade. So it's whatever your highest balance is during the
Oh.
day, that's where your drawdown is now from there.
So like
Oh.
yeah, if you have like 100K account and you have a let's say $3,000 stop for the drawdown, whatever. Like you said, if you're up 2 grand that day, your drawdown moves up 2 grand as well.
So
So
you have
like
to close it at that point.
you have to take partials or close it. Like you have
Oh,
to scalp it. You can't. You have to be a scalper essentially to be funded
Yeah,
with the.
yeah, it's kind of
interesting. Where
stupid.
you fail the whole thing? Like,
Yep, you fail the whole thing at the
that's
start.
crazy.
So like you
Huh.
can have a day where it's like during that day, that intraday, you were up 5 grand at one point, but you ended the day up 3 grand. The next day, your drawdown is still, is only a grand because your highest balance yesterday was 5 grand, and you lost it, or
Oh,
so it
wow.
doesn't. So I like Top Step because it's at the end of the day. So it's like if I went up 5 grand, but at the end of the day with only 4 grand up, my drawdown starts with the 4 grand, not the 5 grand that I was up. So it's kind of stupid.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot out there. There's definitely a lot more out there. But yeah, I think that's I don't know if you have anything else to go over. I think just be mindful about tomorrow. We'll monitor futures overnight and see how we do. And then, like I said, that level on ES is gonna be the 5630s that I want to see how we do. And then, based off that, we could have that breakout tomorrow, or we could just keep chopping in this box that we
Yeah.
placed earlier. But yeah, other than that, does anyone else have any questions or
Yeah, even if it's like you guys have anything to chart, or if anyone wants to know how to use, I know a lot of people use Thinkorswim and had some questions. Um, but feel free to ask anything.
Yeah, and if you guys like these Sunday recap or like pre-market, I'm happy to do them as well with Chic if
Yeah,
you guys are interested in them.
I'm down. I do this anyway on Sundays, and I make a video and I'll post it on my YouTube, but it's more fun when there's people around to ask questions.
Yeah. And like if you guys see something like even Nike, Marvel, when you posted Nike, I was like, actually, that one could be
Hey,
good.
Charlie, what's your accent, by the way?
Putting him on the spot.
No, he sounds like he sounds Armenian. That's why I was asking.
Oh, that's funny. You're muted if you're talking, Charlie, but no pressure either.
You don't have to answer. I don't. I was just curious.
Sorry. I had to take a call. Sorry, what was the question?
Oh, just asking what your accent is like. You kind of sound like Armenian or Middle Eastern or.
No, it's just because English is actually like my third language. I'm in Canada. I speak French.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh,
yeah, maybe that might be the reason why I have a little bit of an accent when I
That's
that's
speak.
really cool. Nice.
But yeah,
Awesome. Good to
dope. I
know.
didn't know we had someone from Canada in here.
I know. I didn't know
I
that
think I
either.
might be the only one. I mean, I think everyone else is from the States.
We used to have someone from Canada. I think his username was Wu Tang.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, he left a while back, but I still keep in contact with him. He still trades. He's just his account's really small.
I see.
But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
we've had one Canadian before, so welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you,
welcome.
thank you.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, other than that, if you guys come up with anything after we get off this, you're obviously more than welcome to ask in the chat and we'll go over it. Um, I plan to be on tomorrow on voice as of now. Yeah, I'll be on. I'll be on voice tomorrow, so we can go over all of this as well. But other than that, I think I'm gonna head out. Sheik, do you have anything?
I have nothing. If anyone has anything, say it now before I end this.
Do you have your hand up,
Question.
Charlie?
Yeah, quick question,
Yeah.
Fashik. So when you guys trade futures for like funded accounts and stuff like that, um, I know Sheik said that like usually his stop loss, he tries to go maximum 20 points.
Mhm.
Um, but the other day on Discord, I asked you if you got you like do you always look for like a 2 to 1, 1 to 1 type of risk and reward. So like do you have a precise like a consistent contract limit that you use when you enter trades, like every single time, or is it does it change? I just wanted to see how you guys
It,
deal
it
with it.
it just changes for me. It depends on like where we're at. Like to me, what I mean, what with NQ, one candle can make your daily. So to me,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, if I see we're rejecting this, like just for example, for here, like we're rejecting this zone. I don't
Hmm.
care if it's like if the RR was like 3 to 1, 4 to 1. If I'm up like 500, $600, I'm probably gonna take profit because I'm just using one lot. Uh,
Hmm.
so at that point, I don't even like it doesn't even go through my mind like, oh, what's the RR before I enter this? I just see a rejection
Okay.
and I see some downside, room for downside. I'm gonna
Hmm.
take it, even if it's just $200, $300. That's
You'll
still,
take it.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. And it does increase. That's why you guys also have like it does increase the winning rate percentage as well. I see
yeah,
because it's like, okay.
Yeah,
Um.
that's something that I had to be mindful of because I think on my account I can't go over a $3,000 win.
Mm,
Which at one point I had to close it. So I was like, I'm gonna go over because I didn't want it to go over. Um, but I think that's where like, for example, like for me, because I like more of the momentum trades, um,
mhm.
I don't mind catching the full momentum. Like I typically don't like to look at my profit and loss just because I would
Okay.
like to stay in the trade longer. Um, for me, I look at book maps too. That helps a lot and helps me stay in the trade longer so I can
Mhm.
even see those points. So for me, like when I took that rejection play, I had kept moving my take profit. But my so what I basically did was I entered the trade. I had
Mhm.
my stop loss sitting above. Once I saw the movement happen, I just took that stop loss and I trailed it. I kept
I see.
trailing it. And the point that I was trying to get to was at that level that I actually exited at was pre-market. I believe it was pre-market high. Yeah, because it was like 19,780. So I actually it wicked right underneath. It said it was at 19,778 79, I think is the lowest it got to. But at
Mhm.
that point, I was like, I'm out. Like I'm not like that. I literally pressed exit at market because I was
I
like,
see.
I don't want it to bounce, which is exactly what it did. It bounced right at that level. So, but when I'm taking the momentum play, like I am literally taking my stop and I just keep dragging it. I keep dragging
Okay.
it. it, because that's, even if you see that rejection at 19,832 that we got, where I was mentioning that 2-bar setup, if you took that play and then just like, trailed your stop, that candle alone was like, what, 200 points to the downside, something crazy. So, anyways, what I'm trying to say is like, I like to stay in the trade longer based off momentum, just
Okay.
because I can, catch the full move, or not a full move, and that's not usually the goal anyway. But like with futures, it's nice because you can literally just like set a stop and just keep trailing it down.
Hmm.
And then, for me, I trail it down to like specific levels, and maybe I'll have it sitting there, and if there's more downside, I just keep trailing it. But yeah, I think it helps stay in the trade longer, but also like when you get momentum on NASDAQ, you get a move. Like,
Yeah.
so it's really nice in that aspect. But I'm like Sheik, I don't like to take more than, like, I think my biggest stop loss was like 25 points. And even that, like, that's rough.
What
Like
about ES? Like with
on
ES,
ES.
yeah. Like
My
what's
stop
your
on ES, I don't like to have more. Honestly, with my entries on ES are much better than NASDAQ.
I
And
see.
I think ES is a lot more forgiving. So typically my stop that I've seen on ES hasn't been more than 4 points.
Yeah.
So it's much more forgiving, and I can take more lots with ES for sure. Um, and like I said, my entries on ES are just because I've been charting it longer than NASDAQ, they tend to be no more than like 2 to 4 points are my stops on ES. So,
Yeah.
and I don't mind making it bigger. I've had 6 point stop losses. I just, for that, at that point, I'm like, I probably didn't get the best entry.
Yeah.
So, that's just something else. Yeah. I don't like to take more than 5 point loss on ES.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
one thing I'm working on is like learning to move my stop loss on futures because it's still ingrained in my head with where if I'm up 600 and I move my stop loss to break even or even in profit and then it hits it, I get annoyed because I want to chase another trade because I'm like I was up
Yeah.
dollars and I only made out with 300. No, no, no.
Yeah.
I gotta do another one. So that's why I kind of keep my if I see I'm up like $400 or $500, I'm like, I'm out. Peace out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we all have our own ways for sure of doing it. Um, but I think you too, like your trading style, like my trading style is breakouts. Like I like taking the breakouts. But if I'm already in the trade, like if I got in on a retest and it's breaking out and that would have been my entry, but I'm already in it, I'm like, I'm writing this shit. Like I'm just moving my stop. And so it's nice because you get to, I
I
mean, that one trade I took was 2 grand on one NASDAQ lot. And that wasn't even like,
Damn.
it was just it was literally, I was in the trade for a minute, 1 minute, 13 seconds. That's how long I was in the trade for. And I made 2 grand on one lot. So it's like you can get these moves. And I was done. I was like, I'm done. I don't need to trade anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm good. So, that's the nice thing about NASDAQ, but also the opposite is true. You can easily overtrade and you can easily lose like your whole account value.
you're
So
almost past your combine already, huh? You're like right there.
yeah, I need like I think like 1,600.
Oh yeah.
Damn, when did you start? Like, did you just buy it like last week or a few days ago?
Yeah, I got it on Friday last week, I believe. Or
Oh,
no, when did I
I
get it?
think you got it Thursday because
I
you
got it
Thursday, I think.
Thursday. I got it
Yeah.
Thursday. No, I got it Wednesday and I traded Thursday.
yeah, because I remember I was like for the first day you already had like a thousand something, and then the second
Yeah.
like your big day where it was like two, three, I think like
It
25.
was 2 grand on, yeah, I got 2 grand on Friday. No, but that's the thing too. It's like when you get a move, like you get a nice move, like, you know, that's essentially what happened. I got a really good move on Thursday. We got a really, really nice move on Thursday. And I think too, something you have to be mindful of with futures is like I said, over trading, because for me, like if I didn't have a max like profit that I had to abide by, like
Yeah.
I would have taken this. That would have been a $6,000 play that I took. I had to
Mhm.
cut it though. I was like, I gotta cut this. But it also keeps you in check because you're like, all right, 3K on one trade, that's plenty. You don't
Yeah.
really, you don't need to keep over trading. But also the thing too with like these funded accounts that you got to be mindful of is, so for me, it's like, it's so easy, right? To be like, oh, I have $100,000 that I can trade with. It's like, no, you don't. You have $3,000 that you can trade with, because
Yeah.
that's my max drawdown, right? Like I lose 3K in this account, I'm done. So
Yeah.
the way I think of it is like, all right, if I had a $3,000 account, how would I trade this? And what my rule typically is I don't trade on, if I have every $1,000 is one NASDAQ. No, I'm sorry. Every $2,000 is one NASDAQ contract for me, because I think on certain accounts, like you can only trade NASDAQ if you have $1,000 in your account, which is interesting because technically you can. Because if you're even like 999, like you get one tick down, you're liquidated. So
Yeah.
technically you have to have like double what your NASDAQ allowance is. So if it's $1,000 as a minimum, I would have $2,000 in my account. So for me, because that's $3,000, I only trade two ES contracts or one NASDAQ contract at one time. So now that I'm up to 104, my profit target is 106. I'm still like, I'm not going to take more than what I've been taking because of the moves that we've been getting. I'm like, I don't need to. You can make
Yeah.
2 grand on one NASDAQ contract. That's great. Like, I don't need any more than that. So that's
True.
just something else to consider. I think people look at that and they're like, oh, I have 50,000 or I have 100,000. It's like, no, you have your max drawdown is what you have. So
Yeah.
you gotta look at it from that perspective.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm talking way too much.
No,
So
it's all good. No, no.
I hope that's helpful.
It
Honestly,
is. It was. It was.
time because usually when we do these with Dan, they go like 2.5 hours because I don't know, Dan starts late.
Yeah,
He's always fidgeting around with something. But anyway, yeah, I think we got through a lot of things. We kind of know what the plan is going into the week. We know what's coming up as far as data and earnings. So I think we got our game plan going. So
hmm
we're good to
Yeah.
go. I hope.
Will you be on tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be on in the morning.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys. Appreciate your time today too. You guys hopping on and being here with us on a Sunday. We'll hopefully see you guys in voice tomorrow. We'll be on. And yeah, have a great rest of your Sunday and evening.
Yep. Everybody have a good Sunday. See you guys.
Bye, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.